It began on a Friday evening, the kind where the tension in the house is palpable before anyone even speaks. I walked in holding Ethan's hand, the one person who made me believe life didn't have to feel like survival. We'd been together 6 months. He wasn't wealthy, he wasn't flashy, but he was kind, and that was enough for me. Mom saw us from the porch, her face tightening as if she'd spotted a stain on her favorite rug. "Who's that?" she demanded before we even reached the door. "My boyfriend," I said softly but firmly. "His name's Ethan." Dad emerged behind her, beer bottle in hand, sizing Ethan up like one sizes up a storm cloud. "Boyfriend," he repeated. "Doesn't look like he can even afford his own shoes." Ethan tried to smile, offering his hand. "Nice to meet you, sir." Dad didn't shake it. Instead he laughed, a low cruel sound. "Are you dating him because you've run out of options or just to embarrass me?" "Dad, please," I whispered, but he wasn't listening. He never did. He stepped closer, his voice sharp and cold. "You think bringing trash into this house is acceptable? You expect me to let my daughter date some mechanic dropout?" "He's not a dropout," I said, throat tightening. "He's working and saving for trade school." That was the wrong thing to say. Mom crossed her arms, her tone slicing the air. "So now we lower our standards for love too? You really take after your father, falling for failures." Ethan's face went pale. "Ma'am, with all due respect." "Don't," I whispered. But it was too late. Dad grabbed Ethan by the collar. "You think you're a man, coming here like you belong?" "Dad, stop!" I screamed, stepping between them. Mom shoved me aside, shouting, "Let your father handle it." Ethan's voice cracked. "Sir, I didn't mean any disrespect." Dad's fist landed before he could finish. The sound of impact echoed louder than any memory I had from childhood. Ethan stumbled back, nose bleeding. I lunged for him, but Mom's grip stopped me. "You made your bed. Now lie in it. Please stop," I begged. Dad dragged Ethan out the front door, still yelling. I ran after them barefoot, gravel cutting my feet. "Dad, please." He threw Ethan onto the driveway. "Get out of my sight before I break something you actually need." Ethan struggled to stand, eyes wide with disbelief and hurt. He looked at me. Not angry, not scared, just broken. "I'll call you later," he whispered, then stumbled down the road, wiping the blood from his face. When I turned back to my father, my hands shook. "You're a monster," I said. He smirked, chest heaving. "You're just like him. Useless." The word hit harder than his hand ever could. I barely saw the swing before the side of my face exploded with pain. The world went white, then black, then blurry. Blood tasted metallic in my mouth. Mom's voice echoed underwater. "That's what happens when you bring shame into this house." When I woke up, I was on the living room floor. The lamp had toppled, my cheek already swelling. Mom sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone as if nothing had happened. Dad was outside, smoking. I pressed a hand to my face. "Where's Ethan?" "Gone," Mom said without looking up. "And good riddance. Maybe now you'll learn your place." "My place?" I whispered. She looked up, smirking. "You think you can do better than what we give you? You'll end up just like him, pathetic, broke, and bleeding." I passed her without answering, climbed the stairs, and locked my door. My reflection froze me in place. My lip was split, my cheek purple, my eye half shut. I didn't cry. Not that night. I just sat against the door and stared at the ceiling until morning. Ethan texted once. "Are you okay?" "I'm sorry I left." I didn't know what to say. What could I say? That I wasn't okay? That I'd known this would happen the moment I introduced him? That a part of me still hoped my parents could be human, and now I knew they never would be? The next morning, Dad acted like nothing had happened. "You're not leaving this house until you learn respect," he said over breakfast. "You think you can run off with losers? Not under my roof." Mom poured coffee. "You should be grateful he cares enough to correct you." "Correct me?" I whispered. "He hit me." She watched, calm, then stopped giving reasons. Something inside me went quiet. Not broken, just still. The part that had once begged for love had finally died. I packed that silence away, hid it beneath my bruises, and waited. Waited for the right time. Because if there's one thing I learned living in that house, it's that control never lasts forever, and when it breaks, it's loud. I looked in the mirror one last time that night, tracing the bruise along my cheekbone, whispering, "You're not done yet." I wasn't. I was just beginning. The next morning my face ached with every breath. Swelling had gone down enough that I could open my eye. I went downstairs. Mom hummed in the kitchen, frying eggs like nothing had happened. The air smelled of oil and denial. Dad sat at the table sipping coffee, scrolling through his phone. "You're not seeing that boy again," he said without looking up. I froze. "You think you can decide that for me?" He laughed. "You think you have a choice?" Mom turned from the stove. "You embarrassed us bringing that dirty mechanic here. Everyone knows who we are now. Do you want people to think we raised a beggar?" My throat burned. "You raised a daughter who wanted to be loved," I thought. Her spatula slammed against the pan. "You raised yourself wrong." I left the room before the tears could fall. The hallway mirror caught my reflection. The bruise on my face was yellowing at the edges. I pressed my fingertips to it, whispering, "This is the last time." They didn't know I'd already started planning. That afternoon, while Dad worked at the shop and Mom gossiped at her friend's house, I opened my laptop. Ethan had texted again. "Please talk to me. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you." I called him. The moment he answered, his voice cracked. "Are you okay?" "No," I said quietly. "But I will be." He came by late that night, parked down the road to stay hidden. Seeing my face, his hands trembled. "They did this to you again, didn't they?" I nodded, barely breathing. "And they think they got away with it." He stepped closer. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to let them show the world who they really are," I said. "And I won't lift a finger." Ethan frowned. "You're not thinking about—" "No," I interrupted. "No police. No fight. I'm done being the punching bag. It's time they see what happens when the person they control finally stops playing along." Over the next few weeks I stayed silent. Obedient, quiet, the perfect daughter again. Dad thought he'd won. He broke me. For a while he even started calling me sweetheart again, as if the nickname could stitch me back together. But I'd already left that person behind. I took a new job, one he didn't know about, running a garage downtown, the same place Ethan worked. Every paycheck went into an account under my name only. No joint access. No family emergencies. Just mine. At home, Mom bragged to her friends about how our daughter had finally learned discipline. Dad nodded, satisfied, saying, "Sometimes they need to be reminded who's in charge." I smiled, poured their coffee, and kept my mouth shut. Then one evening, while I worked in the garage, I overheard Dad on the phone. "Yeah, the house will sell quick. Market's up. Once it's gone, we'll move out of this town. The girl can figure herself out." That was it, the house. The place where every bruise, every scream, every insult had started. And they were ready to sell it as if none of it had ever happened. That night I climbed into the attic. Dust and old memories clung to me. I found the camcorder Dad used to film family moments when I was a child, birthdays, barbecues, the before times. It still worked. I scrolled through the tapes. 7-year-old me shyly smiling. 10-year-old me helping Mom in the kitchen while she scolded me for burning cookies. 16, crying after Dad smashed my phone for talking to boys. Then at 19, footage I hadn't known existed. Dad screaming, Mom laughing in the background, my hand on my cheek, my voice whispering, "Please stop." I froze. He must have recorded it to spite me. But now it was proof, not to show the world but to show them. I copied the footage to a flash drive, slid it into an envelope, and left it on their bed with a single line. "This is who you are." The next morning I left before dawn. I moved in with Ethan, picked up a second job, and saved faster than before. I didn't call, text, or explain. 3 weeks later Mom messaged, "How dare you invade our privacy like that? Your father is furious. You've destroyed this family." I didn't reply because that family had been destroyed long ago. They just hadn't recognized it until someone handed them a mirror. Ethan squeezed my hand. "Think they'll ever change?" I shook my head. "No," I said. But I did. For the first time that was enough. Still I knew it wasn't finished. The real revenge, the one that would make them feel each ounce of what they'd put me through, hadn't even started. 3 months went by. By then I'd rented a small apartment with Ethan. It wasn't fancy but it was safe. No shouting through the walls, no heavy footsteps that made my body tense. I could sleep without watching the doorway. One evening, closing the shop, my phone buzzed. Mom. I almost deleted it, but I paused. Your father's hurt. Fell at work. He's asking for you. I stared at the screen. The old me would have dropped everything and run. That girl no longer existed. Ethan watched me worried. You sure you don't want to go? He asked. I'll go, I said. But not for him. For me. Pulling into their driveway, the house looked smaller. Paint peeling, porch light flickering. Empty. Mom opened the door, pale, eyes puffy. Your father's in the living room, she whispered. He lay on the couch with a cast on his leg and a bruise along his temple. Sudden, shrunken, the man who used to fill every room with noise now small and weak. He tried to smirk. Took you long enough, he muttered. I said nothing. Mom wrung her hands. He's been in pain for days. Bills are piling up. The shop's losing customers. Maybe you could help. There it was. Not concern, not guilt, need. I almost laughed. You remember I exist only when you're falling apart. Mom's lip trembled. Don't talk like that. We're still family. Family, I said quietly. Family doesn't drag the person you love into the street. Family doesn't smash your face and call you useless. Dad groaned and looked away. You're still holding on to that? He asked. I was teaching you a lesson. No, I said. You were showing me what I would never become. I stepped closer, taking in the walls that had witnessed every slap, every insult, every bruise I'd hidden. Do you remember what you said the night you hit me? Dad frowned. I said a lot of things. You said he's just like you, useless, I replied, meeting his eyes. Turns out you were right about one thing. He was like you once until he chose not to let pain define him. And I did too. I set an envelope on the table. Mom reached for it, baffled. What's this? She asked. The deed, I said. You were going to sell this house. Now it's in your name alone. You can keep it, sell it, or burn it, but you'll never see me again. Her hands trembled. Why would you? She whispered. Because I don't want revenge that wounds, I said. I want one that heals. I turned to leave. Dad shouted. You think you're better than us now? I paused in the doorway. No, Dad. I just finally stopped being yours. Outside the air smelled of rain. Ethan waited in the car. You done? He asked softly. I glanced back at that collapsing shrine of fear and ego and whispered. Yeah, I'm done. As we pulled away, the first drops hit the windshield and felt like the world washing something off me that had clung too long. That night, lying next to Ethan, I realized revenge wasn't about watching them suffer. It was about letting them live with what they did while I built something beautiful out of what they tried to destroy. That was the sweetest silence I'd ever known.